right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 201 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. This today is part 5 of the Redemption series. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey updates. I am down 1 pound this week. Total loss since January 2019 is 179.6 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 20.4 pounds. I have 1.2 pounds remaining of that mysterious gain we had a couple weeks ago, so we are onward to the next week. Now, let's not hold you up any further. Let's get into it. Part 5 of the Redemption series. About 4 weeks ago, we met, and I ended it with an assignment for you guys. I asked you if I could take away all the physical barriers, if I could take away all of the mental barriers, financial barriers, any possibility of any failure whatsoever. What would you love to attempt to do? Because I think it's very important that we spend a lot of time giving stuff up. And in the process of our lives, we have attached emotions to food. And so as in our quest to become healthy, we are sacrificing food, but we are not changing or finding something new to make us happy that has nothing to do with food. So I believe that part of our evolution, so to speak, we should find something new to love, something new to interact with, something new to take our time doing that has literally nothing to do with food. Because if we spend all this time sacrificing and never actually replacing, we might even become resentful, angry all the time, things like that. I believe that if we find a new happiness or a new source of happiness, that we can avoid a lot of that. So it was my challenge to you over the last few weeks to come up with something you always loved the idea that you would want to, and for whatever reason you haven't tried. Maybe you did try and you stopped doing. Let's talk about what that might be. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay. I used to do sewing projects all the time, and just for a number of reasons had set that aside. Specifically sewing, like making gifts for people and just creating things. A lot of times I do just come up with an idea and do it. So that the sewing projects, and I actually got to a fabric store last week and bought some fabric and started making a couple of small things.
Nice. That's great.
Started making some gifts for my sister. This is a table runner that I'm working on for her.
Great. It's all, you even started doing it. That was going to be like the end of today's episode, and you already started.
Well, I once I got the supplies and I got my sewing machine out of the basement and cleaned it and everything, I just was like, I want to do this, and started working on it. And I thought I had forgotten how much I enjoyed this.
Is there a story behind how you even came into this activity? You say you used to do it. Like, what made you start it?
I've been sewing since I was like a teenager. And my mother loved to sew. She taught me. My older sisters loved to sew, and we would do it together. When we had children, I used to make them outfits and make gifts for them. And so I've been doing it. I quit doing it just when life got busier, and I set it aside, and I hadn't done it in years and years. I've always enjoyed it a lot. I always just loved taking a couple pieces of fabric and creating something that would make somebody happy with it.
All right. That's great. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
I would like to start traveling and just venturing out into the world, just be near or far, just doing things that I don't typically do, because day in and day out, I tend to do the same things with work, and I just want to venture out. And I've had, some issues in the past with, when I was 100 pounds overweight, now I'm about 40. I would be worried, and really stressed about it. Like, I knew that the seat size of the airplane was 17 inches. And I would literally look at that and try to see, am I going to fit in this? Or are people going to look at me and go, oh gosh, that's who I have to sit next to? And I would just get so stressed out over traveling and doing things. Is there weight limits? And I would build this all up in my head, and and I don't want to live that way, and I do want to venture out, and those things do creep into my mind, even though I've lost a little over 60 pounds, and I can do these things. Like, after I lost that weight, I went out and did a women's track day and took my Mustang out on Laguna Seca, and did things, but I don't do those enough, because I think there's like a physical limitation, but there's not, because I am very strong, and it's more of a mental limitation that I put on myself.
Okay, we'll get more into that after the mental aspect of it. Jackie, go ahead.
Well, along those lines, I have a dream that I would like to go to Italy and walk in the paths of my great-grandmother, who came over to Ellis Island at the age of 17. And she lived in a little town called Avigliano, and it's a lot of mountains and just very hard to navigate areas. And I've always had a dream of going there and walking where she lived and climbing those kinds of roads that are really steep and going up the mountain. And I would never be able to imagine myself doing that at a heavier weight, dragging myself along. And could I actually do such a thing? I have the dream, and I want to do it.
That's great.
Mine is writing a book. I write professionally, and I have ebooks, but I want to write a physical book. I've always loved writing, and when I was 10, when I had my 10th birthday, it was my 10th birthday, I was living in Brazil, and my mom said, wow, 10 is such a big number. you've lived a lot of years, you can write a book. And that got me thinking. I was like, maybe I could. And my parents have had that influence in me. Like they just have a way of inserting a lot of possibility into my life. So I never forgot that. And, came to the States to go to college, did journalism, ended up doing marketing and communications, and I write professionally. I write every day. And what does that have to do with weight? Everything and nothing, because I feel like if I'm healthy, I can do everything better, including writing. I feel like I think better when I eat better, so I can, just have the energy to do all of these things.
So, Jody, you want to go next?
I have to say, this was the absolute hardest thing to think of for me. I'm typically someone that if I want to try something, I try it. But then I thought of the things that I stopped doing, and I found it. I would also want to write a book. I have always enjoyed writing, whether it was poetry or just some way to express myself. And I used to be told in public school and then in college that I should consider writing either creatively or just something because they thought I had a good talent. They recognized it. It's always been in the back of my mind because I love reading, and I used to dream of being one of those authors that gets to go on tours and everything, but I never tried. I never started. And then the other day, my counselor brought it up to me and she said, you should really consider writing. Well, that was the third person that had told me. So, yeah, that's what I would do.
Reads a trend, right? All right, Jane, what about you?
Hi, everybody. So me too, on the book. I actually have written a story that's been published, and I have started writing the book, but I also get, who's going to want to read this? And, what direction do I go in? Blah, blah, blah. So then I started, as I did I like videoing and talking, and I thought about a podcast or some kind of direction, which all goes with the book, right? Because if you write the book, then you got to promote it and share it. I do like the idea of the podcast or a Facebook post, the videos. And I think that that's where I need to start, is the videos. So just having some kind of direction in that.
Are you talking about like a video blog?
Yeah, I guess that's what it would be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Loretta, you want to tell us?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm interested in the hobby of restoring furniture. I enjoy watching the videos. I recently came across a piece of furniture that my mother, one of her friends, gave, and I almost threw it out. I was like, no, I want to restore this. So I kept it. It is in the garage right now, but I love painting. I'm not that good at it, but I want to get better. And I think it's something that's doable, realistic, and it's physical. It's something with my hands, and it could become a great hobby and maybe make some extra money.
All right. Last but not least, Taffy.
My dream is to follow in my mother's path. She was a natural born artist, and I used to just be in awe watching her paint. And then I had kids, and my daughter followed her, and she could do no wrong. She paints, she just does, she's so talented in the arts. Now being down here in Florida, and there's just so many opportunities, I would just really love to get into doing some painting.
All right. Let's talk about what would be a hindrance or what would stop you, whether it's fear or whether it's whatever you think the limitation might be. Let's start with Anne-Marie. You had mentioned the fear of actually traveling.
things like unknown. It's always in the back of my head with the size of the seats on the airplane. If there's weight limitations on anything that you do, like that's always something that comes into play. And recently, I mean, there hasn't been an issue since I've lost over 60 pounds, but it's something I think of. It's something that pops into my head immediately.
Who else feels they have a fear of something holding them back? What would stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do? Go ahead, Jane.
My fear is myself. I put the fear on my own block, I believe.
When you say fear yourself, what is it? What is that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Like I said before, I'm fearful that nobody really wants to hear it. I would be exposing other people. I'd like to figure out how to write it so it's anonymous, because it's a great story, and it's a true story. So I don't mean great story. I mean, it's got everything. So, and it's very cathartic to do that. So I just feel like I'm the one that's blocking myself. If I would just get in and do it, it would be good.
Who else has? Phyllis, go ahead.
I think for me, it's my unrealistic standards that one of the reasons I quit doing my sewing projects is I was unhappy with some of the things that I produced. Now, nobody else was unhappy, but I was unhappy, and and fear that I couldn't do it well enough, and that people would think this was really stupid or just not like what I was doing, or that I wouldn't like what I was doing. And even when I started this project, I was like very nervous about starting it, thinking, can I do this?
Jody, go ahead.
So my fear about it is much like what Jane was talking about, exposing secrets of the family. I mean, I know I don't necessarily have to write about every single little dirty laundry that we have, but what I really feel led to write about would be, in a way, doing just that. Along those same lines, I would want to make it be a Christian book. I am very afraid that I would either add to or take away from biblical truths. And that's something that really is scary to me, because I don't want to do that.
Okay. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot. Because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one. Because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. Who else feels like they have okay, Jackie, go ahead.
Well, financially, I think is one of the hindrances I have, but I know that I waste so much money. And if I just put my mind to it and put a little bit of money away and just work towards that as a goal, I could definitely afford to do it. The other thing is like fear of the unknown, to go into a strange land. And well, I know the culture because I live it with my family, but just being somewhere that's not a place I'm familiar with and I wouldn't know what was going to happen, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The first barrier I thought about was time. And to be completely transparent, I started on this and I was looking at the year, it was like 2021 and I never finished. And then every year it's just like, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Here's the summer. So time is one. Another one is connections. And I'm sure you can pay for connections, but in my brain, I'm just like, I don't know anybody. How I'm going to make this happen. And then the last one is criticism of the work itself. I'm not sure why I have this unreasonable fear of being criticized, if even Jesus was. So it's just like, who am I? But that's kind of part of the deal for me.
Okay. Taffy, go ahead.
I'm just afraid that I don't have the talent. I'm afraid that, I would not live up to what I would expect of myself. So it's just more self-imposed fear that I just can't do this.
Okay. Loretta, did you have anything you wanted to contribute?
Sure. I think time is realistic for me to be concerned with. And then just the pure fact of just giving up if it's too hard. But I'm usually not a perfection kind of girl. So I think time and just giving up if it's too hard.
So what can we do to get rid of the barrier? What small step can take for the travelers specifically? Let's talk to the travelers for a second. Jackie, I noticed there's more than one barrier. There's the financial barrier that you had said, but then there's also you said that where she came from, there was a lot of incline. It's like on a mountain, and so could two things be, like you said, to try to come up with a plan for financial savings, and then the other thing would be to find areas where you live, where you can go and walk around, explore where there are elevations to prepare you.
I can absolutely do that because I live in the mountains of North Carolina.
All right. So then, so it sounds like a good plan, right?
Walk out the door and it's just doing the hiking and
right.
And I don't think I could have a year ago when I was, 50 pounds heavier. It would have been, but I think I could actually do it now if I really go out and just hike on the weekends or just try it,
Well, it doesn't even have to be like something big. It could just be like, okay, if I could just walk up this hill for 5 minutes and then turn around and come back, and that's a 10-minute walk up and down whatever incline it is, right? And
Right.
it doesn't have to be like miles of a hike. It just has to start somewhere, right?
Right. The first step, right?
And I was going to say for
Sure.
Anne Marie, could there be, even in your state, where you can just start to branch out in areas of the state to travel to and explore? I feel like you can loosen the fear if you start small, you know, the fears that you have of traveling. Even if you pick areas where you don't have to take a plane to, you could just travel there, make a day trip out of it, and something to enjoy with family or whatever. And how will this challenge me today? You know, kind of a thing like that. I feel like and specifically in the travel part of it, the more you introduce, the more confident you will feel. Because when you discover what you can't do, or when you are surprised by what you can do, it's only going to motivate you to do more.
Yes. And actually, we did just book the trip in October to go to Las Vegas for a long weekend.
Nice.
And so it's in my head. And so I'm not going to think about everything. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other until, you know, as it all happens and as we do things.
That's a perfect plan. I'll talk to the writers next. Have you heard of, I forget what is the term, but there are authors who write under a different name, like an actor, like Robert De Niro is not Robert De Niro's name. They act under different names than their actual name, right? So there are different, I forget what the term is exactly as an author, but there is you can write under a different name. So if it's fear of, and obviously when you're writing, you're revealing actual stories about actual people. If you stay away from using their true identities, you're still getting the story on paper. I mean, you're just protecting the identities. So I feel like if you considered just getting it on paper and protecting identities, you could think about what your name is going to be later on. You can write blogs anonymously anytime you want. If it's truly a blog, you can do that anonymously easily. You just, search for blog sites and you can start posting. You can even start in our little group. I think you can post anonymously in our group, but it's up to you how you want to do it. There are ways of protecting the identities of the people you're writing about and also protecting your own identity in the writing process. I want to say it's a pen name. I forget. I wish I could remember the term. You know, just another personality that you write under.
It's not ghostwriter, is it?
I think ghostwriter is if somebody else is writing it for you.
Okay.
That's what I think. But there's another term for if you're writing under a different name.
Okay. I'll look it up. Thank you.
So I have two painters. Loretta, we're talking about a piece of furniture. And even if you just set one goal, if you set one goal for that piece of furniture and you said, I'm just going to paint this white this weekend, or you decide I want it to be white at the end of it, whatever the case may be. If you listed all of the steps that needed to be done and decided week 1, I'm going to do this, week 2, I'm going to do that. And if it's, if it has to go as deep as week 1, I'm going to sand it down. Week 2, I'm going to, whatever other steps might be involved in painting this furniture or refinishing it or whatever you want to do. Or even if you have to add week 1 is watching videos on how to do it and go from there. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It doesn't have to be done in 1 week. It doesn't have to be, it could be a long-term project that you set small goals in between. And as long as those small goals are met, it's never going to feel like, oh, I'm never going to get this done. You just set the small goal and you do it leisurely.
Right. Yeah, I want it to be fun. I want it to be something I look forward to do.
Right. That's going to be, and that's the most important thing, because if you don't like it, obviously it's not going to be something you want to do.
Right.
And Taffy, I'm sure you've heard of Bob Ross, right?
Yes.
I've always wanted to paint like Bob Ross. Always.
Yeah.
I see that they even have Bob Ross branded paints and everything else like that. But I mean, you have to know whenever someone is starting something new, they're never going to be good at it in the beginning, right? So whatever the part of it is that, says, oh, I'm not sure I'll be any good. Well, nobody would be good on the first time they try, right? It's not about being perfect on the first time. It's about just doing something. Like, okay, maybe it's just, what do I want my first painting to be? Watercolors, oil paint, acrylic, and then you decide from there. And then you find videos of people who paint with these kinds of paint and watch their techniques, and then you try from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So what I did, knowing that I was coming to this little group, was I signed up for a class at our art studio here in town. We're going to do a pumpkin and paint and decorate that. And I figured I can do that, right?
Nice.
So I'm doing that Thursday.
That's
great. That's start.
That's awesome. I love that this has all had started rolling. And in my head, I just said, well, if I could just get them thinking about what could be the first step, I will have met my goal for this episode. But some of you have actually started the process already, and I love it. And so, Phyllis, you said your fear was, I forget, remind me one more time.
That I couldn't do a good enough job, that I would be unhappy with it, or that the finished product or the people I gave these gifts to would not like them, think they were silly, or,
But you've also been doing this for a while, so this is not even anything new to you. So what could be something you can do to take away those thoughts?
Well, one of the reasons I chose to start on this project is that this is a project I've done before, and I felt like I'm pretty certain I will do this well. And it's a simple one, and it won't take me a long time. So I thought I want to start off with a little success. And this is a project that I had made some of these before and given them, and everybody liked them. Everybody I've ever given to. So I felt like I'm going to do one, I'm going to start out with something I know is going to go well. It won't take me a whole long time, and I could start off with a good success. So I feel good about this already. That, this is going to help encourage me that, yeah, I can do this.
All right. How do you guys feel about what we've talked about so far?
Great.
Good. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Think you could set any goal for the next 4 weeks regarding this activity?
Yeah,
Definitely.
So you want to go around, we'll go around, or do you need like a minute or two to think about it?
I'll start. So I am going to commit to doing, I don't know if I'll do it on my iPad or writing, because I've got it started writing. But anyway, I'm going to do that 2 days a week, like for maybe an hour.
All right, good. Anybody else want to go? Go ahead.
I'm going to maybe look into learning about sanders. What's the best one, most economical, maybe, that I could purchase?
All right. Good. Anne-Marie, go ahead.
Here's something I'm not going to do. I'm not going to look at the size of seats. I'm not going to do things like that. It's ridiculous. At the point I'm at, I don't need to be worried about that. So I'm not going to even put that in my head, but I am going to continue, doing my strength training and do things more for endurance, because, long weekends will mean tons of steps and doing lots of things. So I'm going to continue with walking and doing things that's going to build my just my endurance to do lots of activities.
That's great. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I have these projects I'm working on, and 2 of them are for my sisters who have birthdays in the middle of September. So my goal is to get them finished, get them wrapped, get them sent to Texas before their birthdays. And I think that's realistic.
All right. Jackie, you waved your hands also. Go ahead.
Yep. I am going to do two things. First, I'm going to start designated travel fund, like a little savings account for just travel. And anytime I want something from Amazon, I'm going to take that money and put it in the travel fund.
All right.
And the other thing is I'm going to start walking on inclined areas, at least I'll say twice a week.
Good. I like it. I like it. Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Cynthia.
My goal is to write for 45 minutes, 4 days a week. So that should give me 720 minutes in a month.
All right.
So,
Joe, do you want to go?
I actually committed this morning to praying to God for guidance on making sure that I do stay biblical and everything, and trusting that if I do start to veer away from the truth, that He'll correct me. I will just keep writing my thoughts as I have them.
As we close out today's episode, I would like to take a moment and just have each and every one of you declare something positive over your life. I don't care what it is, what it's about, and I don't care if it hasn't happened yet. As a matter of fact, I want you to speak something over your life as if it has already happened, even if it hasn't happened yet.
I am able to do squats and lunges as easy as I can do them in a pool as being just squatting outside of a pool. So I'm going to be an expert at lunges and squats.
Waking up each morning, excited to continue my health journey and ending my day knowing that tomorrow there is no need to start all over with another diet. I feel free.
I'm a best-selling author and an international speaker, and I help and inspire people through my words. I'm disciplined, motivated, and focused. My goals are specific and achievable. I have wisdom and courage to use my talents effectively.
I've changed the way I think about myself. I've challenged standard medical practices. I started doing strength training. I count macros, and it's just been the best thing ever.
I find pleasure and relaxation in activities unrelated to food and eating, and that bring joy to others.
I make healthy choices for my body, and I am finally able to maintain my weight loss.
Through having the courage to present my stories, I have helped many, many people to realize that they aren't alone and that they too can conquer things in life as they go through this journey. And they are very appreciative, and I'm feeling so happy for them.
I am able to use my story to help others learn to overcome all the self-doubt and self-hatred that stems from childhood and early adult trauma. I am willing to do the things that scare me because God did not give me a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and a sound mind.
You see, the vision of this group was 4 things. Number 1 was to get you to achieve consistency and show you that achieving it would bring you freedom from self-doubt. The second one was to break chains over your life that have weighed you down emotionally for way too long. The third was to help you to get you out of your own way long enough so you have that light bulb moment where you finally understand that this journey is so much more than a scale result. And the fourth and final reason was to watch all of you become the greatest version of yourselves. I see so many of these things happened already. Congratulations. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.